It's October 27th, 2025, and I'm over here at Kaiser Elementary subbing elementary music today. And phew, the first class came and went. It was 4th grade, and the reason I said phew was because on the way over here I get a call from the school saying that I'm late. But Frontline said to come at 8:50. And they're calling me, leaving me a message saying that there's already a class waiting. So they understood the mix-up and everything, but I came in here, got all set up, and got them singing the songs that the music teacher wanted them to sing. The assistant principal came in at one point, and afterward he said that he came because it was kind of one of those classes that were very talkative, but he said I handled them very well. So they sang some songs, did a song with boomwhackers, then I showed a coin trick, and they remembered me from last year. So I recognized a few of them from 3rd grade last year. In fact, it was like a year ago this month. Well, next is 5th grade and a few more, so I'm sure it's going to be a melodious day. And subbing here last week for a class that came to music, I noticed the brand new keyboard, and the music teacher said, yeah, new keyboard, you're going to love it, and so far I do. And so the day was melodious, 5 classes total, 3 4th grade classes and 2 5th grade classes. The second to last class, which was a 5th grade class, were the best singers, I'd say. And the wildest one was the last one, the 4th graders, but you know, it's the end of the day. It was very melodious. They were singing the same songs pertaining to their grade level, practicing for concerts and Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I really enjoyed it. And I will append something real quick. After school, I ran into one of the teachers at Kaiser, and she was saying that the music class had a sub on Friday, and she was really hoping to see me there as a sub, but I wasn't. I was called somewhere else. But last Saturday, I was tutoring algebra and chemistry over at the Starbucks behind me, and I ran into a student from Kaiser who was in line in front of me, and he's like, hey, why weren't you in music class? We had a sub, and you weren't there. So I feel very appreciative that, you know, teachers and students like me as a sub, especially in music. In fact, I was walking home just now, and a couple of students, I assume from Ensign or Newport Heights, were like, hello, music sub. So glad that I was there today and can't wait for next time. It's October 28th, 2025, and I'm going to have a special day subbing here at Ensign Intermediate School today. Here's why it's special, room 23. In this classroom, I'm teaching my first lesson on quadratics, so I'm very excited, and I'll let you know how it turned out. And so that went great, my first lesson as a student teacher here on quadratics. Words cannot express how nostalgic it is to be back in this classroom. This is my mentor teacher's classroom, and I'm subbing for her again today. 3 years ago at this time, I was doing my advanced student teaching semester for student teaching in math, and I eventually got a math credential and later a master's degree in education. But this was the room where my life basically changed. 3 years ago yesterday, in fact, I taught my favorite lesson as a student teacher, and I have a whole chapter about it in my book, Unstoppable, that chronicles the entire journey through student teaching and my adventures as a substitute teacher. So I was just sharing that last night on social media, and it was all about function notations and birthdays. Before I elaborate, this is the same exact workbook that all the students used and what I used to teach out of 3 years ago, but now they have another one right here. It's pretty much the same exact thing. I compared, and there's like no differences much. So it's slightly amended from the original one. So now instead of Unit 4 being about functions, it's Unit 5. So my most favorite lesson that I taught 3 years ago yesterday in this room was Unit 4 Lesson 2, all about function notations, and the final activity was about birthdays. The idea is for every input there's only one output. Everyone has only one birthday. But let's say we have October 27th, for example. There were many people who were born on October 27th. Therefore, that wouldn't be a function because there'd be so many outputs. Well, since I had all the birthdays of the students memorized, I took advantage of that. So you can imagine the shock on everyone's faces when I was just rattling off birthdays. At the very end, one of the students over there said, that was a very impressive lesson. That was second period, and I wish third period was just the same. Third period went okay. I just got a little tongue-tied with the birthdays. But the full story's in my book if anyone wants to check it out on Amazon or Barnes & Noble and read it. So it's just like old times again. I came in here and the teacher was just getting prepared for the field trip that Avid is going to, so she teaches Avid as well. And that's why she needed a sub today, so I'm basically covering her 3 enhanced math classes. Oh, and just to clarify, these are enhanced math classes, so these students are taking high school level algebra. So when I walked in period 1, a few students were taking tests all about linear inequalities and systems of linear inequalities. Very, very fun. Exactly what I was teaching 3 years ago for the Cal TPA Cycle 2. And the teacher was giving me the rundown of what I'll be doing today, and she was putting me to work. She said collect the worksheet from yesterday, put a check mark in the seating charts, have them work on their computer program for the next lesson, and then pass out another worksheet after that. I remember as her student teacher I had to make copies and give out worksheets like every day. In fact, she said the worksheet that I'm passing out today is about function notation, and it's the same one that I made myself a couple of years ago, just slightly amended of course. I definitely remember setting the same calendar or whatchamacallit a few times. So I'm very thankful to be here today. I'm sure it's going to be very nostalgic like I said, and I usually play music as students walk in, so I'm playing a song that I listened to all the time 3 years ago in October 2022. And so this day was quite remarkable. There were 3 enhanced math periods in SSR for 8th graders, and I'd say 4th period was the best. For a couple of the classes, I got to show a trick toward the last couple of minutes, and some of the students here are the younger siblings to students whom I student taught in this classroom in spring and fall 2022. Very remarkable. Now let me tell you something that is very incredible. The lesson that they were learning today was Unit 5 Lesson 2, and the corresponding lesson in the old curriculum was Unit 4 Lesson 2, which was the same exact lesson that I taught 3 years ago yesterday, my favorite lesson, all about function notation. So some of the students marveled when I said that, and for the first enhanced math class, I found out at the same time they did, because I was talking about it, and apparently they were opening up to the same lesson. So my favorite lesson as a student teacher was technically taught today, only electronically, I guess. Again, the teacher just had a computer program for them to watch and answer questions and fill out their workbooks. But I'm like, hey, I taught this and I have a math credential, so raise your hand if you have any questions. And again, students took me up on that offer all day. But that wasn't even the most incredible part. In the beginning of 7th period, I said, okay, everything is on Schoology, so go ahead and open up the video. But no one could find it. And a couple seconds later, I made a realization. I took a deep breath. Okay, so everyone turned to page 22, opened it up to the lesson, and one of the students asked me, are you going to teach the lesson? I'm like, yes, I am. So I got to remarkably teach the same lesson that ended up being my favorite lesson 3 years ago and one day. So I'm like, you can't just make that stuff up, but it'd be more incredible if it was October 27th. But I will append something very humorous, and it was to my folly. It was right before 3rd period began, and I'm there at the door. 2nd period just left, and I'm waiting for students to come in, but no one was coming in. The warning bell came on, and no one was coming in. And then the bell rang, and that's when everyone started to come in. And they're like, oh, hey, Mr. Genslow, see you again. And I'm like, hello, good to see you again, but are you always tardy? And they give a peculiar look. Apparently, I forgot it was nutrition between 2nd and 3rd period. And I'm like, good going. I only was a student there for 2 years, 16 years ago. I did my student teaching and was subbing for the last 3.5 years. How could I have forgotten that? So again, it was great to be back in that same classroom from 3 years ago. Even the fragrance of the room smelled the same. And again, I play music as students enter and leave, and so I actually chose 2 songs that I would listen to a lot in 2022 when I was doing my student teaching. So as always, I'm thankful to have subbed at Ensign again. It's October 29th, 2025. I'm back over here at Newport Harbor High School, my alma mater, subbing social science today. And inside Bake Hall, which is basically the social studies and history building, I actually took a few years of classes in this building when I was a student, way over 10 years ago, basically when these students were born. In fact, right behind that wall was my 10th grade World History and Geography room from 2010 to 2011. Right upstairs was my 12th grade Economics room. Back in 2012 to 2013. And diagonally right up there was my US History and Geography class in 11th grade and my 12th grade government class. During lunch today, I was walking around the campus and a lot of students were saying hi, remembering me from subbing for them in the past or even student teaching a few years ago at Ensign. But I also went by to see if I could visit some former teachers. I got to say hi to my former geometry teacher from 10th grade back in 2010-2011. Now he teaches algebra. I told him that I tutor math on the side and he said his students needed tutors, so he asked for my email, so I gave it to him. And there's also a lot of office staff and people on the security team that remember me from way back when. And the day was pretty simple. This is ethnic studies and the teacher had a project for them to work on all period. Had 3 classes going from youngest to oldest. So it's block schedule at the school. So period 1 had freshmen, period 3 sophomores, and period 5 a 50-50 mix of juniors and seniors. And being an NMUSD employee since spring 2022, I pretty much know almost everyone in the school. There were a couple of students who had my mentor teacher back in 2022. And surprisingly, not one student really asked me to see any tricks until the last class of the day, 5th period. And so at the end of the class, I showed a couple of tricks and they were all blown away. So as always, it's a wonderful time to be back at my alma mater, Newport Harbor High School. It's October 30th, 2025. I'm over here at TeWinkle Middle School subbing today. And just down this hallway. And so this day was marvelous. I was only in here for 1 period because this teacher goes to different classrooms throughout the day. So the first 2 periods was in a math class over in the PLTW room, and I subbed for this teacher, I believe last week or 2 weeks ago. Well, anyway, they're doing compound shapes, so I did get to help and tutor a lot of students in both periods for perimeter/circumference and adding parts of compound shapes together. And then I was back in here for 4th period, and it was special ed math, and they're working on a packet about circles, radius, diameter, and all that. And if they were to finish, then they would get another packet about ratios and unit rates, but they didn't get to that. And then I was in a science classroom for 3 periods, but I didn't really get to do anything. I was just sitting in the back. So all in all, it was a good day today. And all the students throughout the day were recognizing me from subbing for them in the past or at their elementary school or asking to see tricks. Well, as always, it was good to be here at TeWinkle. It's Halloween 2025 and I'm over here at Sonora Elementary subbing for a one-on-one instructional aide today. So I'm a one-on-one aide with a student who has Down syndrome, so I'm just helping if needed. So we're going back and forth from the general ed room to this room. So there's some coloring in here and a movie that they're watching over there, and then drama class for a little bit, and now it's lunchtime, and then there's like a Halloween party at the end. So overall, I'm sure it's a good day. And speaking about the project, it was just using paper and making skeletons, so I thought that was neat. I was helping out a few students. And then toward the end of the day, there's a student that came up to me and said that he really likes me as a substitute teacher, that I do a good job, and I say I try my best. And he said, that's what I like about you, because you try your best. So I really appreciated that comment. And I'll say real quick, when I walked in here this morning, as I was about to be introduced to the student whom I was helping today, the whole class was marveling and was like pointing me out. I mean, this is the first time that I'm subbing here this academic year, but I subbed for them in the past and they remembered me and they were, asking to see card tricks all day, even during class. And I'm like, I'm not the teacher for the whole class today, but maybe at recess or lunch. Also during recess, there's a substitute teacher who asked me if I was a sub, and I said yes, and she recognized me. Her son goes to Newport Heights, her daughter goes to Newport Harbor, and both of them appreciate me as a sub. And so she was happy to see me in person, took a selfie with me, and sent it to her son and daughter. So remember that disability or not, anyone can do whatever they set their heart and mind to do as long as it's practical. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.